Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire is about to be every 10-year-old's favorite movie.
Big CGI fight coming up!
Back in 2021, the first movie to welcome audiences back to the theater was Godzilla vs. Kong. I remember getting my tickets and having to wear the mask to go to the theater. And after a year of being in lockdown, I was just excited to be back at the movies. And while the first movie's a big dumb action film, I was just happy that audiences came back and were having a great time. When that title sequence started in my Dolby Cinema, that was just the most insane welcome back to theaters, and I'll never forget that experience. Hi, I'm your host Rob, and on this episode of Atomic Vision, today's guest is a DVD copy of Roland Emmerich's Godzilla. At least it wasn't the pile of fish. Since the review embargo lifted, I was not expecting the kind of divisive reaction it's having right now, but having just watched the film, I totally get it. It's just not where I stand. I had way too much fun watching this absolute batshit insanity on the screen. Over the last few years, when it comes to how blockbusters have become these really big and ridiculous films, they usually refer to them as theme park rides. And I've famously said that Godzilla vs. Kong is a theme park ride. It literally has an entire sequence that looks like a theme park ride at Universal, and Godzilla x Kong is absolutely no different. From the way Adam Wingard directs this film, it's very obvious that he's a 1980s kid. So now that he has the ability to make a ginormous CGI blockbuster, he directs this film just like a Saturday morning cartoon, and he is not ashamed of it in any way. This movie fully delivers on the spectacle it was promising in the trailer, and honestly kind of overindulges on how much action a viewer can watch. But in today's day where a ticket costs almost $20, so bringing your family almost costs a fortune, this movie fully delivers on all the stupidity that it promises, and it gives you it non-stop until the credits roll. At a certain point, the pacing feels like it's going either too fast or not fast enough, and you can feel it when it jumps between the Kong storyline, the human storyline, and the short Godzilla storyline. So that's where a lot of the divisiveness is coming from. I totally get why critics are like, nah, this is not for me. But what's preventing me from hating this like all the other critics right now is the fact that the movie never gets as obnoxious as a Transformers film. Those were filled with characters that were just really awful stereotypes of people, done in a really crass and vulgar way that just didn't fit the property it was supposed to be representing. So with this film, Adam Wingard knows how long the movie can go without having these CGI characters on screen, so he tries to keep it as minimal as possible. Compared to Monarch: Legacy of Monsters, it makes sense why people were expecting a more serious film compared to the last movie, and it really doesn't help with Godzilla -1 just destroying the box office. So it only makes Godzilla x Kong look cartoonish by comparison, but I think that's what makes it feel special in a way. Just like the last film, Kong is definitely the main character again, and I kinda have to appreciate that the movie embraces how absurd that sentence sounds. And it's so stupid that I'm giving a shout out to the script for such a silly kaiju film, but I love that the film just works around the fact that Kong can't even communicate to the audience. Entire sequences of this film are not subtitled, and you just kind of have to just pay attention and understand what the hell's going on. And I gotta give props to Legendary for just letting them do that. This isn't even like the Planet of the Apes films where they were speaking in sign language and they had subtitles on the screen. They don't even do that here. Kong communicates with all these other characters just simply with looks, and it's kind of ballsy to do that with a blockbuster. Even though this movie's dealing with so many kaijus, what really grounds the story is Rebecca Hall and Kaylee Hoddle's relationship in the film. I didn't expect these two actors to give their A game for something this silly, but Rebecca Hall really puts in so much effort for a character that's not as deep as it should be, but her performance is way more emotional than anticipated. Now, I'm not saying that the script is completely incredible. It is very much a cheesy, corny blockbuster film, and it knows that it's not working with the highest of quality of characters, but it at least has fun with them in unique and silly ways. If I had to name two characters that I think critics probably just did not like, it's Brian Tyree Henry's character, who returns from the last film, and a new character played by Dan Stevens, who they literally call in the film a British Ace Ventura. And if that doesn't really tell you what kind of movie you're watching, then I don't know what will. One of the big problems with the film, I think, is the title. It implies that Godzilla and Kong equally share screen time, and if you're a big Godzilla fan, you're gonna be very disappointed. Every shot in the trailer featuring Godzilla is every scene in the movie. He is barely here. Basically, Godzilla's storyline is like a generic anime arc where the character just needs to get more powerful because of reasons. And then he does. And that's it. That was Godzilla's journey as a character. What makes up for that is Kong's new relationship with a character that they didn't really name in the movie, but everyone's been calling him Suko, and their dynamic is absolutely ridiculous. And one scene I'm pretty sure was the make or break for critics. I kind of don't want to spoil it, but I absolutely lost my shit when Kong and Suko meet for the first time, and I could not believe that this was approved for the movie. I was just gleefully laughing in the theater. While their journey together is not as strong as the memes we've been making where Kong and Suko kind of look like Kratos and Atreus from God of War, it still kind of works because they tie Suko's storyline to the villain, but that leads me into my next big problem. Scar King, who is a completely original character for the film, he is not based on anything from previous Godzilla or Kong movies, he's just not that cool. The character design is impressive, and I enjoyed that he's lankier and faster than Kong with a unique weapon, but there's nothing about him that really makes him unique outside of the fact that he's just orange like an orangutan, and it sort of feels like a missed opportunity, to be honest. Meanwhile, the other character that they're sort of kind of spoiling in like commercials now, who is another big bad quote unquote in the film, that character at least has something going for it. There's an emotional reason why the character is in the film. Its powers are more different than Godzilla's or Kong's. And a part of me wishes that maybe that was more of the focal point of the film than just another variation of Koba from the Planet of the Apes films. But even with all of that aside, with the character problems, with the story structure problems, with the fact that there's just way too many action sequences, what really makes Godzilla x Kong an enjoyable film is that it fully understands audiences have been waiting for a film like this since they were kids. The Transformers films failed to deliver on what was promised. Marvel films, as of late, are kind of flip-flopping between really great and kind of messy. So even though this film is not as high quality as it could have been, it really gives you exactly what you've been wanting for a kaiju film. And truthfully, we don't get kaiju films that often. -1 is kind of a miracle. I think that movie should be put on a pedestal, but it shouldn't be the be-all end-all for monster films. While I wish this film was a little bit more creative with the journey that it takes its characters, I really can't deny that I didn't have a good time. My audience was just cheering and laughing at how ridiculous this was. And I really feel like this is the kind of movie that you drink to. This is the movie that you bring your kids to see. Godzilla x Kong doesn't have any substance, but I think what is probably going to be the highest compliment that I could give for this film is the fact that at a budget of $135 million, this looks unbelievably good. The amount of CGI characters and screen presence that they have on this budget is nothing short of a miracle. And I applaud all the artists that brought these characters to life. Within context, I fully recommend Godzilla x Kong: The New Empire, but if you're looking for a film that resembles anything like -1, this is not for you. If you are someone who really enjoyed Pacific Rim or the previous MonsterVerse films, this will be right up your alley. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this episode of Atomic Vision, leave a like, subscribe for more, follow me on my socials, and I'll see you next time. 2024 really is the year of the monkey.
Economically dead.